Now, to end a cycle is also to begin a new one. And every time we conclude, we also have to start a new beginning. So with that in mind, I'd now like to invite Rabbi Yanky Berger, who is the rabbi and the co-director of Chabad Double Bay, to restart the study of the Rambam for us. Seem to have a little technical problem. Hopefully, Rabbi Berger is there. Rabbi Wolf, you might need to come back on and restart for us.
Good evening. Good evening, Tali. Good evening, everyone. It's an absolute privilege and an honor to be given the real honor of starting the new cycle of Rambam. And as many of you know, in shul, many shuls at the end of the service, they sing Adon Olam. Adon Olam really belongs at the beginning of the service, but we can't conclude the service without starting it again. So that's what we're going to do now. I just want to mention that I had the good fortune as a 12-year-old boy to be in New York at the Rebbe's Farbrengen. At that talk that the Rebbe gave, it was right before my bar mitzvah, where the Rebbe was talking about this idea that everyone should study Rambam every day in 1984. I believe it was the end of April. My father brought me to New York for a yechidus, for a special private audience with the Rebbe. Now I remember at the end of this Farbrengen, all the adults around me were like talking, and there was something happening, and I was too young to really appreciate the extent of what they were talking about. But I remember them saying, and I remember them reviewing this talk from the Rebbe that people should study Rambam every day, one chapter or 3 chapters of Rambam. And my bar mitzvah, which was just a week later, believe it or not, I got over a dozen sets of Rambams as bar mitzvah gifts. I just want to once again endorse what Rabbi Wolf just said, that Sinai Down Under is now launching a daily Rambam study group. And every single day, one chapter of Rambam, so we finish the cycle in 3 years. And it's a great opportunity to get involved in studying every single day. When you study the Rambam, you study the entire Torah. And if you stick with it as much as you can, and you tune in every day, you will achieve a great knowledge of Torah. So I highly endorse and encourage everyone to try to take advantage of this new program which Sinai Down Under is offering. You know, we all have ideas about God, what God is. We have this image of God. It says God created man in his image, and in a sense, we create God. We tend to create God in our own image. There's a very interesting study in the United States in the Pew Research Center. It was called When Americans Say They Believe in God, What Do They Mean? And I'm bringing this up because I'm going to start the beginning of the Mishneh Torah Rambam, where he talks about God. But before we do so, I share with you this Pew Research study. When Americans say they believe in God, what do they mean? When they say they don't believe in God, what are they rejecting? So they surveyed 4,700 American adults. 1/3 said they don't believe in God, the God of the Bible, but they believe in a higher power. 72% of the respondees who said they do not believe in any religion said they believe in a higher power, which means that believing in a higher power, as we will see soon from the Rambam, that's what God is, a higher power. And unfortunately, there's this primitive image of what God is, and it reminds me of the story of Levi Yitzchak of Barditchev, the great tzaddik who lived about 250 years ago. He was once having a conversation with a self-professed atheist, and the rabbi asked the atheist, "Could you please tell me about the God that you don't believe in?" And after he described to him what this God is that he rejects, Rabbi Yitzchak turned to him, this great tzaddik, says, "You know what? I'm also an atheist. I also do not believe in the God that you just described." So let's now open up the Rambam. It's the very first chapter from Sefer Hamada, Hilchos Yisoda Torah, the laws of the foundations of the Torah. So I'm going to read it in Hebrew in the original language, and then I'm going to translate it into English. Yisod HaYisodis, V'amud HaChochmas, Leda Sheyesh Sham Motzi Rishon, Hu Mamtzi Kol HaNimtza, V'chol hanimtzoim mishamayim va'aretz ma shebneihem lo nimtzo ela me'amitis yimotzi. Which means the foundation of all foundations and the pillar of all wisdom is to know that there is a primary being. It's interesting, it doesn't refer to it as God, it refers to it as a primary being who brings all things into being. All that exists in the heavens, the earth, and what is between them came into existence only from the truth of his being. And he goes on for the next 12 paragraphs to describe what exactly Hashem is. And when you read these 12 paragraphs, you actually, at the end, you realize that what we don't know about God far exceeds what we do know about God. We know that God is one, there's no physical form, he is, and he is one. And as one of the great sages from the 19th century said, the ultimate knowledge of you is that we cannot know you. So I'd like to address just for a moment, what does it mean that Hashem is this amitis imotze, the true existence? What exactly does this mean? I'm going to share with you a little thought. It's on a novel, and perhaps this will give us a better understanding of what the Rambam is trying to tell us, describe to us of what God is. We know that Kurt Vonnegut, who died a few years ago, the novelist, one of his books was called Breakfast of Champions. I'm sure some of you have read Breakfast of Champions. In it, he describes a character whose name was Kilgore Trout, who's a very arrogant character, full of himself. And he writes, one day Kilgore is sitting in a bar, and he's having a drink. And he's very full of himself. Someone walks into the bar, and when Kilgore realizes who walked into the bar, he feels the nothingness of his existence. He feels that he's not, his arrogance and his sense of self, his sense of realness is nothing. Who walked into the bar? Now, I can't hear your response because this is only one way. And I'll share with you who walked into the bar. I've asked this question to my family, to my congregants. Some say his wife, some say his inner self, some say his mentor. Who walked into the bar that makes Kilgore, who's an arrogant person, feel his own lack of self? And who walked in was Kurt Vonnegut, the author of the book. And Kilgore Trout realizes that his whole existence is not a real existence, but it depends on the pen of the author. With one stroke, the author can wipe him out of existence, but his whole existence exists within the pen of the author. And the Rambam says that Hashem is the true existence because we exist within we exist within the will of Hashem. The Rambam says that Hashem is infinite. Hashem is the true existence. That's what it means. And of course, 5 minutes doesn't do this topic too, but that's just a little snippet of the opening of the new cycle, the Rambam. Again, I encourage everyone to get involved and to tune in, and you will not regret it.